Hey everybody, welcome back to Mohawk Motors. My name is Jason. It's another progress update video on the silver single cab short bed. Most of the prep work is done. It's time to start putting things back together, getting things looking good, and really, hopefully, starting to see this truck coming together. Let's get into it. So left off the last video being ready to start painting things. The engine is ready to be painted. The chassis is blasted and clean, almost ready to be painted. I have some new parts to put on there before I'm ready to paint that. So I'm going to start with the engine. Now, if you've been following this project, I pulled this engine out of a 2003 2500 HD. It's a 6-liter LQ4, completely stock. But I want to clean it up and make it look nice. So I went through, I needle scaled the entire block to get any of the flaking paint or flaking rust off of it. I used a product called Star Bright to clean the heads and valve covers. I really like that stuff. It comes in like a 2-quart bottle, has a sprayer, works great. I mean, I used a brush and Star Bright, and this is the end result. It really cleaned the valve covers and heads up nicely. I'm gonna paint the block with the front and rear covers and the oil pan still on it, because I need to pull those off for some of the modifications I'm gonna make to this engine, and it'll be easier for me to clean those up with them off the engine. Now, as far as paint prep, obviously, like I said, needle scaled. I blew the whole thing off with brake clean to make sure I got any remaining oil or grease off of it. And then I just use my MAP gas torch and I warm the whole block. And you'll actually be able to see, I'll show you on the other side, as you warm the block, it pushes moisture out of the iron. I don't know if it's trapped moisture or what it is, but I find that warming the block with your torch first, it makes your paint stick better. I've already done that here. You can see I've plugged off all of my holes, my crank position sensor, dipstick tube, my bolt holes that I'm going to use, and I've masked off where I don't want paint to go. So I'm going to use a rust converting primer. I'm using this stuff from Seymour. I've used it before. It works really well. It's just a matte black primer. So I'll go through, get it sprayed, try to get a good light coating in all my little nooks and crannies all around here. And then I'm gonna leave it to dry. And then tomorrow, I'll probably give it a coat of color. And the next day, I'll give it another coat of color. So I'm gonna spray this paint on this thing. I'll show you what it looks like after. It makes a big difference just being one solid color. All right, let me show you what I'm talking about as far as like baking the moisture out with the torch. Watch this. Looks dry, right? Get some heat in it. See the moisture coming out of it? Isn't that crazy? If you look at it or touch it, it feels dry. But torch on it, and like corners especially, there's just all kinds of moisture trapped in that iron. I guess maybe it's just because iron is a relatively porous material, but I always do this. It seems to make the paint stick better. So I'm gonna finish up this side and get this side primed, and then I'll show you the fully primed engine. All right, everybody, I'm wrapping it up for tonight. Got the primer on there. I mean, it honestly doesn't look bad in black, but the color I have picked out for this thing I think is gonna complement the truck. And I've never painted an engine this color, and I think it's gonna look really good, but you don't get to see until I have it sprayed on there. So it's a little after 10 o'clock. I'm headed in. This will have, you know, roughly, I'd say at least 12 to 14 hours to cure before I can get back out here again. And then I'll do a coat of color. But I think it's gonna look slick. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Well, it's the next evening, everybody. And it's late. It's 11 or a little after 11. I haven't looked at the clock recently. And I am not proud to say I've spent my entire evening out here cleaning up an oil spill from earlier today. I had oil from the furnace all the way over to the front shelf over there. Turned it on earlier today when I was down here spraying some paint and forgot to turn it off, and she just, all of it. So I spent my whole evening cleaning that up, but I did take a few minutes and get my masking and my earplugs out of the bolt holes off of this engine, and I figured I'd show it to you guys. So here it is. I'm still deciding how I feel about this color. Now it's a Rust-Oleum hammered finish silver. And I was really hoping it would be a little closer to the silver of the truck. And maybe once the truck is repainted and the paint is all refreshed and good and looks good, it'll match a little closer. I don't hate it. It's a little bright for me. But it's also, you know, this is going to be tucked down in the engine compartment. You won't see all that much of the engine block. But yeah, she's all painted up. I've got the heat set at 70 degrees out here, so it'll be hopefully ideal conditions for this paint to set up and cure. I'm done for the evening. I just wanted to show you that. And I think tomorrow when I come out, I need to do something I enjoy doing. So I think tomorrow when I come out here, we're gonna work on starting on some of our modifications on this engine. So I'll probably see you then. All right, everybody, it's another day and I'm getting back after it. My goal today is try to get this engine done. I was busy this morning selling a truck and that went well. So I want to get this engine done. I've got all kinds of stuff for it here. I've got, oh geez, new knock sensors, new knock sensor harness, all new external gaskets, valve covers, valley plate, front cover, rear cover, oil pan, new seals for the knock sensors, new AC Delco knock sensors, intake manifold gaskets, my cam, new cam, as well as my new valve springs and valve seals, probably some other stuff that I'm forgetting. So we're gonna get all this stuff done on here, and like I said, my goal today is just get this engine finished up. At least finished up assembly. I may not get to getting the front rear cover and oil pan all cleaned up, but that's okay. As long as I can get everything put together. So I think first thing to do here is get the valve covers off. Yeah, I'll get the valve covers off. Saw the earlier in the series, I had already pulled the valve covers and pulled the rocker arms and push rods off. And I mean, this is a clean engine. This thing was obviously taken care of. Oil changes were done on time because the inside of this thing is clean. What next? Spark plugs. I don't think these spark plugs are very old, but I'm gonna check them all, see how they look. I may use these for break-in and then put some new plugs in it after that. These are good AC Delco plugs though. Like I said, they don't seem old. They look to be in good condition. And I know they were working before. Jason, don't take your spark plugs out with an impact. Why? Why not? I've been told many times you're not supposed to, but no one can tell me why. One more. There we go. Okay, so valve springs and seals. Now this is the first time on an LS that I'm doing valve springs without pulling the heads. And honestly, the only real reason I'm not pulling the heads is because there's nothing wrong. The head gaskets are fine, and if I don't need to buy 2 new head gaskets, then I'm not going to if I can avoid it. Jeez Louise. So, I bought 2 valve spring compressor tools to work on the head. One, I'm sure you're familiar with. You've probably seen these in homemade versions of these and all kinds of stuff. But the first one here, I'm dropping stuff everywhere. This is just a plain old style. You bolt it down in the rocker arm holes. Bolt it in the rocker arm holes, and then you use another screw to pull the little compressor arm down. It compresses your valve springs, you bing bang boom, etc., etc. I'm sure you've seen these ones. I will use this one if I need to, because I know that it will work. But I saw another tool that I have not seen before, and I want to try it. This one is on the floor. This one, like I said, I hadn't seen before, gets bolted down on the rocker arm mount, and then you can use, I'm probably doing this backwards, yeah, and then you can use a ratchet to pull down on it, compress the spring, and get your little retainers out. So I'm going to try this one first. Now before I do this and drop my valve down into my cylinder head, I'm going to hold the valve springs up with some compressed air. So to do that, I've got my compression tester. I'll thread that into my spark plug hole. And then typically this end holds the gauge, but I just use the little thread adapter so I can connect it up to my shop air. And now I should be able to pressurize this cylinder. And now that'll hold my valve springs up. Now I've got 200 PSI of shop air fed into my cylinder. It should be more than enough to hold the valve up for me to get the retainers off and replace the spring. Maybe not, because I am opening the valve and air is not coming out. So something's wrong here. What did I do wrong? Oh, there's a check valve in here. I got to take that check valve apart. Now we'll have shop air directly into the cylinder. There we go. Oh, that works mint. Okay. So, get a magnet. Grab my little retainers off. Maybe. There we go. Move my little tool out of the way. There's my valve spring, the retainer and locks. I can get my new valve seal. Well, I guess first get my old valve seal off, right? There's my old valve seal. Do a quick double check comparison to my new one. It is the same. Give it a little wipe. New valve seal. Oh, you know, no, there's plenty of oil in there. Push it right down. Get a new valve spring. And my retainer. Boom. Boom. Get my tool back up in position. Get my locks. Try to do it with my left hand this time so I can have my smart hand to try to work the valve, or work the locks rather. There we go. One down. Ta-da! Same thing on the next valve. Okay, so I'm taking off from the first valve I did. And then I'll go on to the next valve. So that first valve I did was exhaust on cylinder number 2. Now I'm going to do intake on cylinder number 2. So that's down. Get tool in position here. Push down. And my little magnet for my locks. There we go. Tool comes up. Swing the tool out of the way. Valve spring and retainer out. Old valve seal out. Give a little wipe. New valve seal goes in. New spring. Old retainer. Tool back in position. And locks. Oh, why are you fighting me, lock? There you are. There we go. Got a tool back out. Move right to the next one. Should be ready for that one. There we go. Got my new springs on. I'm going to release the air pressure. One of my little O-rings out. Probably going to need that. Take my compression tester out of the spark plug hole. There we go. There, that cylinder's done. 2 valve springs, seals done. 14 to go. Now before I actually really say I'm done with that, I like to give them a couple of taps with a soft face hammer. That just makes me feel better. It gives me confidence that my locks are in fact seated into the lock groove, that they're not going anywhere, and everything is hunky-dory in there. So 14 more valve springs and seals to replace. I'm just gonna do it. I'll bring you back when I'm done, guys. So I figure, just for comparison's sake, I'm really liking how this valve spring compressor is working. But for comparison's sake, I'll do 1 cylinder with the more common compressor that I've seen people using. And honestly, both of these they're very similar in price. I don't think there's any great benefit to either. But this one I like better because there's less screwing and unscrewing into your cylinder heads, which, even though it's a minimal amount, Every time you put that bolt in or out of that hole, it is putting some wear on those threads. I can already tell you I like the other one better. All this screwing and unscrewing, no. No thank you. Oh, come on. This thing, I don't like this. I'm taking this off and finishing up with the other one. This is junk. Not impressed, guys. I guess if you had to use this, it'll do the trick, but nope, I like the other one way better. Easier to use, less stuff to jack around with. I'll be sticking with this guy. Done. I like this tool way better. Way better. There you go. Release the air. Boom. All right, I'm going to do the other side. All right, I'm done with my valve springs and seals, all 16 of those ready to go. Now I'm going to do my knock sensors and valley cover gasket. These ones they're pretty crusty. So I've got brand new AC Delco sensors for these to replace them. This one's not as bad, but still pretty crusty. Man, slinging oil all over my nice clean engine. Just a little persuasion. Wait, these freaking, those knock sensor seals sometimes are a little ornery. All right, there we go. So get those seals knocked out, get the little pedestal wiped off. Here's our old gasket. We're going to replace that. Guys, I'm just prying off the last little pieces of the knock sensor seals. They tend to come apart when you remove them. So I'm just getting those last little bits off. Cover all cleaned up. New knock sensor seals. When you do these guys, the cup side faces up toward the intake manifold, and these will just slip on. It helps. Rub a little oil right around the little knock sensor tower. Just help it slide just a little bit, you know. And then another tip on these, stick your gasket, your new gasket, hold it against your valley cover and stick all the bolts in. And the gasket will hold your bolts, but that'll also make it easier for you to line up. I guess technically also, it's not a gasket, it's a seal. Once you get it in position, then you just start threading your bolts in. Once you've got all your bolts started, just a couple threads, then you just push your valley cover down. My seals, for my knock sensor tower seals, slid right over, so they're good. I'll just go around, torque down my 10 valley cover bolts, and then put in my new knock sensors. There we go. Give them all one more quick check. There we go, 18 foot-pounds. Now our knock sensors, they get torqued to 15 foot-pounds. There we go. All right, let's see. What's inside of here? I don't think we're gonna find anything we aren't expecting. Oh, there we go. Dang, bottom of this pan is pretty clean. Very clean, actually. They must have run good oil in this truck. That's nice. Can you see down there? No sludge or goop built up in the sump. Very clean. Excellent. Screen in the dipstick tube looks, screen in the pickup tube looks nice and clean. Yeah, no debris or anything in there. Excellent. Awesome, awesome, awesome. I am going to put a new pickup tube O-ring on this thing, just to make sure. Oh look, that one's stuck inside the oil pump. So is that not installed correctly, or did it just come off? Either way, we're putting a new one on. I'm gonna put this stuff in the parts washer, let it marinate a little bit. All right, so I see this pretty often. The crank bolt is 24 millimeter, and people have trouble getting this thing off. It goes super tight, so I get it. I've been lucky with everyone I've done so far, and I probably just jinxed myself, but my 1/2-inch cordless impact tends to get them right out. Yep, jinxed it. Oh, there it goes. Got it. Now, here's something else I see people have trouble with. I have just your standard LS crank pulley removal tool. I got it on Amazon. It's OEM Tools brand, but everyone I've seen, they all look the same to me, guys. There's nothing special or fancy about this. Now, what I have found to work really well is one, keep anti-seize on the threads of your tool. Now the next thing is, you know, a lot of these engines are 20, 22, 23 years old now, right? So we need to assume that this crank pulley has never been off the end of this crank and it's stuck on there pretty tight. And I see people using this style tool that say, instead of pulling the crank pulley off, it just bends up their push rods. And I believe that. What I have found to be a good way to break the pulley loose to get it started moving, because once you get it started, then it comes off really without much argument, is take your crank bolt and thread it back in most of the way. Leave yourself, I'll say, an 1/8 to 1/4 inch between the shoulder of the crank bolt and the crank pulley. Then take your pulley remover tool and get it lined up on the little ears. Cheap tool guy, the little retaining ball came out. Now it's not going to go back in. Come on. There we go. Cheap tool, like I said. But it'll do the job. So I've got my tool on. I got about an 1/8 inch between the shoulder of the bolt and the crank pulley. I don't know if the video is good enough for you able to see that, but my crank pulley moved. So now I can take my bolt out of the way, take my push rod, and use the push rod to get this crank pulley the rest of the way off. So now I've got my push rod in there. And voila. Easy peasy. Didn't bend up my push rod. Didn't hurt my pulley. Didn't hurt my tool. Everything is good to go for the next one. So that brings us to the front cover. We need to pull these 10mm bolts out and get that off of there. Front cover. Woo! Don't drop it, they can be fragile. Put that in the parts washer to soak. Okay, now I bet you were wondering why I didn't put my 24mm socket away, weren't you? Now, I'm going to put our crank pulley back in, put our socket on, and roll the engine over. We're going for, there's a dot on the timing gear, on the cam gear, and a dot on the crank gear. We want to get those lined up with each other. Actually, before we do that, I want to flip the engine over and get those lined up with each other. Why, you ask? Because we're about to change the cam in this thing. So, got my light. And my teeth are lined up. And I'm going to go around. I'm going to rotate the engine all the way around. Just a couple times. In doing this, the camshaft, the tall side of the cam lobes, is pushing all of the lifters as far away from the cam as they will go into the lifter trays. With the engine upside down, they will fall into they will push into those lifter trays and stay in the lifter trays. So now, when I rotate the engine over and line it up, so cylinder 1 is on top dead center. Just a touch. got cylinder number 1 on top dead center, compression stroke, all of my lifters are pushed out of the way. So I can take off the cam gear, ta-da, and then I can grab a water pump bolt. Oh, there ain't the water pump, Jason. There. And grab a water pump bolt. Oh wait, nope. First we gotta take the cam retainer plate off. Getting ahead of myself. There's my cam retainer plate. Get that out of the way. I'm not going to be reusing that. Now, my water pump bolt can go into my cam. And I can pull my cam out. Maybe. Oh, there we go. Ta-da! 1 LQ4 camshaft. Here is my new camshaft. As you can see, Summit brand cam. This is a Summit 8701R1 Pro LS camshaft. Okay, here's the cam specs for you. So I chose this cam because it's gonna get, I think, it's gonna give this engine just a little bit of cam chop. You'll just be able to tell that it's not a factory cam. It should help the engine breathe a bit better on the top end without giving up everything on the low end. It's still gonna be a little bit better, you know, 4,500 RPM up cam, but I'm not losing my 800 to 1,000 RPM torque. It's also, what's this one have? It's rated for a 2,800 stall converter, which I have. We're gonna put that in. But it's my first time with this exact cam. We're gonna see how it goes. I think it'll run good. I think it'll make the truck fun, but not unreasonable. I gotta find my assembly lube. Guys, I'm gonna wipe this cam off with a rag. I'm going to smear some assembly lube on it, and then I'm going to shove it right back in there. This is not rocket surgery. We're not building a NASCAR race engine. We're just building, I mean, I don't even know if I would qualify this as building. We are just making a stock 6-liter a little bit better. We're going to give it this better cam. I gave it the better valve springs. It's going to get a better tune. And we're going to let it eat. And it's going to love every minute of it. And because we didn't overlove it and spend $12,000 on engine work and shit that we didn't need, it's probably just going to be happy as can be for a long time. I have a pretty strong theory on these LS engines that if they make it to 200K, that engine's going to last a long time. Probably longer than you or me. Typically, if they have problems, they have them before 100,000. Occasionally, if they have a problem, it's between 100 and 200,000. Actually, I'll say 100 and 150,000. Once they get to that 150, 200,000 mark, they just go. They don't have any issues after that. Once you run them out of oil or just don't do the maintenance on them. Now, I will tell you, it's much easier to poke a cam in with the engine right side up. If you can keep the lifters out of your way. For me, I just like doing it this way. Now that the cam is in there, I can flip the engine over, get my timing marks lined up, and then put my new cam retainer plate and my cam gear back on there. Now we're flipped back over. There's our little timing mark. Oh, have to pull this off. Be gone! Be gone, old gasket. Ta-da! New retaining plate. Guys, if you're going this far into your engine, put a new retaining plate on it. This seal here, this is your main oil galley seal. If this seal leaks, you're going to bleed off oil pressure. That's not going to do you any good. And a new plate like this one, and I think they're only like 15 bucks. And I can't tell you how many people I've seen have an issue with low oil pressure and find out it's because their cam retaining plate seal is leaking. So it's worth the few bucks. Make sure you don't have an oil leak internally on the engine you just spent all this time and money on. I'm way more time into this thing than money, and I honestly have way less time than money available. So in my opinion, it would be silly to not spend that little bit of money and save yourself all that time. Cam retainer plate bolts go to 18 foot-pounds. No particular torque sequence. And those are good. Now, before I go any further, let's thread my bolt back in here. And I'm going to make sure my cam spins freely. And it does. It's sticky because it's covered in assembly lubricant, but otherwise it spins free. While I'm at it, I'm going to spin it around so my little alignment stud is close to where I think I need it to get my timing marks lined up again. Two reasons for that, right? One, make sure it spins so you don't have interference somewhere. Two, get it ready to be put back together. So now, I can get my timing chain. Oh, come on, girl. Woo! Alright, so there's our timing chain. Get our cam gear. There we go, dot to dot, lined up. Right on. And I'll get my bolts. Them started back in. Now you do this how you like. I'm going to do it how I like. cam gear bolts are finger tight. My timing marks are lined up dot to dot. So I should, if I spin the crank one full revolution, now both of my timing marks are pointed up. Crank timing mark is pointed up, cam timing mark is pointed straight up. That means that the piston is on top dead center exhaust stroke. Now I go whole revolution again on the crank. And there I am, dot to dot, cam dot down, crank dot up. Now I'm on top dead center compression stroke, which is where I want to be. So everything's good. Now we torque that. Those little babies go to 26 foot-pounds. There we go. Now, one more check before I put anything else back together. I'll spin it all the way around again. I'm doing this to make sure that the shoulder on the camshaft is machined correctly. My cam gear and my cam are not pinching against that cam retainer plate, making it unable to spin. There we go. Full revolution, smooth, no problems. I can feel that I've got a couple thousandths, I'm gonna say 10 to 12 thousandths of play on the cam retaining plate, which is good. That's it. I'm not doing anything else in here. I'm not messing with the oil pump. I'm not doing any of that stuff. The oil pump was working great before I took the engine out of the truck. It'll work great when I put it back in the truck. I think that means now I need to go do a bunch of cleaning. I need to clean the front timing cover. And then I need to clean the oil pan. And then put it all back together with new seals and gaskets. So, I will see you guys then. Well guys, it's a few hours later. Did a lot of cleaning, did a bunch of painting. Got my oil pan painted. Valve covers painted. And front cover painted. And they're all dried up. They're ready to go back on. I took a break to go do some mowing and eat dinner with the family, but they're all in bed now, so I'm gonna come down and get some more stuff put together. The next thing I'm gonna do here is get my oil pickup tube back on with a new pickup tube O-ring. Now, no matter what the mileage is on this engine, if you're using an LS out of a factory vehicle, even if it's only a 12,000 mile engine, it's still 20 years old, guys. And the rubber, the plastic, that stuff gets hard, it gets brittle, and it doesn't seal as well. And these engines are actually well known for the sealing ring on the oil pickup tube getting hard and brittle and cracking or just not sealing well, and it causes oil starvation issues. And I don't want to have that. So we're here. I'm putting a new pickup tube O-ring on it. And there's two styles depending on which style of pickup tube you have. I get them from Melling. They're a couple bucks, and you just follow the instructions and put the right O-ring on for which style tube you have. So I'm gonna get that on, and then I'm gonna get the oil pan put back on, and then we'll do the front cover, and then the valve covers, and then the engine will be mostly sealed back up again. All right, so I'm getting my oil pump pickup tube put on. You slip the O-ring on the tube, sit it down into place, tighten down the retaining bolt and the two mounting bolts. Then you get the oil pan put on, gasket, then oil pan, then run in, start all your oil pan bolts by hand first. Then you can go back through, torque them all down nice and even. Flip it over. Next, valve cover gaskets.
It helps with your valve cover gaskets. Give them a little stretch so they stay in the groove in the valve cover. And then on the little bolt seals, same thing. Just slip those over the bolts, put it all together, torque it down. Here's the other side, same process. Once I get the valve covers on, then I go to the front cover. I do like to put a little dab of RTV in the corners where the oil pan, the front cover, and the block meet. You can see I'm using my front cover alignment tool there. I don't have the front main seal in yet. Now I'm putting the front main seal in. You torque the cover before the front main seal. And there's my new knock sensor harness installed. Here's my new intake manifold. Yes, I'm converting it to the new body style intake manifold. I'm using an ICT billet 4-bolt to 3-bolt throttle body adapter. It was a pretty decent adapter. The plate itself is nice. I don't think there'll be any problems with the plate. The hardware they sent to mount your 3-bolt throttle body to it, I thought was pretty cheesy. So I reused some of the 4-bolt throttle body bolts. I just cut them a little shorter and used those.
Well, it's about midnight, everybody, and I gotta call it for tonight. I'm kind of at a stopping point, and I don't feel like getting the tools out to resolve this issue tonight. But here's how far I got. I've got the intake manifold on. This is a cathedral port, what a lot of people call Trailblazer SS style intake manifold. It's just an 07 and newer style intake manifold. It's not from a Trailblazer SS. But I've got an ICT billet throttle body adapter to convert from the 4-bolt throttle body to the 3-bolt throttle body. Some of the hardware that came with that was pretty disappointing, so I shortened and reused the factory hardware to make sure I had more thread engagement and appropriate clamping holding that on there. So we've got that sorted out. And you can see my issue here is my water outlet is a little bit too tight to the throttle body. But I think I can heat this up with the acetylene torch and bend it just, I mean, I only need to bend it 3-4 degrees at the most. And that'll give me enough clearance. It'll be close, but it'll clear. And like I said, I'm not getting the torch out tonight. I'll work on that tomorrow. But I did get a bunch of other stuff sorted out. Got my EGR line over here, getting ready to go on. Valve covers are on. I forgot to mention earlier, while the paint was drying on the valve covers, the oil pan and the front cover, I went ahead and put the push rods and the rocker arms back in. Nothing special there, just put it back the way you found it. Water pump, oil cooler lines. Yes, I am going to be running an oil cooler on this. The radiator I have has an oil cooler in it. The truck, a 6-liter, would have originally had an oil cooler. It's not going to hurt anything to keep the oil a little bit cooler. So I'm absolutely putting that back on. There's no reason not to in this case. And the other reason I'm switching to this intake manifold, not only is it well known that these manifolds perform better, but this manifold has flex fuel injectors in it, which are larger than the factory LQ4 injectors. I believe these are 35 pound an hour injectors. I'd have to look up the part number again, but I'm pretty sure they're 35 pound an hour injectors. So it's a stock injector that will flow enough fuel for the bigger cam and the increase in airflow that we're creating. So good budget friendly way to meet my fuel supply needs. And I've got some other stuff for in the tank too, but yeah, good stopping point for tonight. And I'll probably get back out here tomorrow. We'll see how much further we can get on this thing. All right, guys, it's the next evening. You can see I did a little bit more yesterday after I turned off the camera. Got the water pump on. I finished painting and put the balancer back on. Nothing special there. You've seen me replace water pumps. You've seen me replace balancers before. If not, I'll put links in the description for those videos for you. But I'm using a lot of these. Are commonly called a TBSS, a Trailblazer SS intake manifold. I think a more accurate description is a NNBS, a new body style intake manifold. Some people call them the bread box manifold, but I'm converting this engine over to use this manifold, which it's cathedral port. The intake manifold bolt spacing is the same, so it pretty much bolts on. It's even a returnless style fuel rail, so it'll match right up with my existing fuel system. But in order to make it work, to make this as uncomplicated as possible, I'm using an adapter to go from the 4-bolt Gen 4 throttle body to the 3-bolt Gen 3 throttle body. I bought this one from ICT Billet. It seems to fit pretty well. One little hiccup though is it's going to have my drive-by-wire throttle body it puts it too close to my water port here on the water pump. I think I could probably just squeeze the radiator hose into position and put the clamp on it, but man, would it be tight. So I want to try and see if I can't give myself just, a couple millimeters of space. So what I'm going to try here, I've got a socket that matches the inside diameter of the outlet here. I've got the front of the engine supported with a jack stand so I can pull on it. And I've got a socket that fits over the outside diameter. And what I'm hoping is I can slip this socket over, pull on it, and bend it just a teeny tiny bit, or even rotate it just a teeny bit to give me the space that I need to clear the throttle body and be able to get the radiator hose on and off without collapsing and deforming this piece of pipe. So I'm gonna see if I can't just get it bent down a little bit first. That didn't sound good, did it? Maybe rotate just a bit. Oh, we rotated a skosh. Let's see what that did for clearance. Oh, that should be fine. I should have plenty of space now. I say plenty. It's still going to be tight, but it'll clear. And you can see there, that should be just enough space for the hose and the clamp to fit over this piece of tube. And honestly, even if they touch a teeny bit, I'm okay with that. I just don't want there to be pressure between them. So I think that's going to be okay. I'm going to bolt this throttle body back on. And then I'm going to try fitting the upper radiator hose on here and make sure I have enough space. Yes. Just barely, but it does. So we're good. All right, guys, it's the next night. I was able to sneak out today and get my accessory brackets painted up, both the AC compressor bracket and somewhere around here, the alternator and power steering pump bracket. So these are the last couple pieces I needed to get painted, so I want to get them stuck on here. Got my bolts, wire wheeled the heads off, so they're all nice and clean also. Get these on. Those are good. This is the compressor. This is not the compressor that was on the engine originally. This is a compressor that I saved from a truck that I parted out. I sold the engine as a long block, which means no accessories. And this compressor looked like it was brand new. I guess not brand new, but it didn't look like it had a lot of time on it. So I saved it. And I'm gonna put it on this one because it looks way better than the compressor that was on there. There we go. There we go. Like there's only 40,000 miles on it. Oh, that's not very impressive. Is it gonna stay in there? No, it comes right out. I guess we need to put a little, we'll get a little RTV on there and hold that in there. That's not impressive. Here's the belt. I think this is the right length belt. I guess we're gonna find out, aren't we? Oh, baby. Hot dog! Hot dog, hot dog. You have kids, you know that song? Hot dog, hot diggity dog. There we go. All right. Now we'll do the other accessories. Get this thing up here without dropping it and trashing our paint job. Look how nice. No, I'm not painting the power steering pump. Oh, you know what? I need to clean off my little pads here on the back. I don't want to have any ground issues. That way I can be sure that my alternator, which is case grounded, has a good ground. And should I ever need to jump start this thing, then I'll know it has a good ground also. There we go. Now we've got good ground. That would be annoying. Have a charging issue or something because I forgot to clean off these grounds, these connections. And the ugliest thing down here. Short one over here. Don't forget your bolt here in the back. That one's important too. Oh yeah, hear the difference? That one tightened up. That's what we wanted. All right, so got this. We have these guys. Let's get our alternator on here. Idling. Shazam. Alright, I need to find us an alternator. It doesn't look like it's been in the bottom of the ocean. So, we'll run this one until it craps the bed, which may not be long. Nice. Now, I just need to put the power steering pulley back on. I really don't like doing this job. I'll bring it back once I'm done. All right, got my new belt. We're gonna see if I manage to order the correct size belt. I believe, and you guys, if I'm wrong about this, correct me down in the comments, because I tend to mix this up. But if I'm remembering correctly here, there are two sizes of belts that came on the 25, that could have come on the 2500 HDs. And the difference was, if they had the snowplow prep package, the alternator had a slightly smaller pulley, which meant a slightly shorter belt. So if you did not have the snowplow prep package, that belt, the snowplow, the shorter belt, would be too short. Ask me how I know. But I think we got the right one here. Let's see, it should, yeah, just squeaks over. Lined up on all our pulleys. We're not stuck on the bolts. There we go. Woohoo! Got our front accessories all back on. Painted up. And I gotta say, looking pretty good. Not too shabby. Pretty happy with that. Man, you guys have seen me put a lot of engines together, and I don't think you've ever seen me paint an accessory bracket or paint an air compressor bracket. So I guess that says a lot about how I want this build to turn out, huh? I want it to be nice. But for my purposes right now, which is there she goes, which is getting the engine together. All right, everybody. I think that's it for this video. Our 6 liter is dressed and ready for the party. Now, I'm still waiting on the map sensor, and I haven't draped the harness or any of the electrical stuff over it yet. The engine itself is put together. I still have a new rear main seal and rear cover gasket. We'll put those on in the next video when we're getting this thing mated up to the transmission. But like I said, that's it for this video. I am excited. I gotta tell you, I think this is one of the prettiest engines I've put together. I've done some nice ones, but I put more time into the details on this one than any other one I've done. I think it's gonna pay off. It's gonna look as good as it's gonna run. So, hope you guys enjoyed. We'll see you in the next video when we're working on the transmission. But until then, take care.